Bear, and for today's class winners seat of the pants video, I want to start out by saying I'm sorry, because I was wrong. You see, as a former automotive journalist, I should have known better than to poo-poo cars that I hadn't driven. I should have known better than to pass along comments from other reviewers and people out in the blogosphere that I hadn't verified for myself. And the funny thing is, like many of you, by repeating these things, I've only hurt myself and missed out on some amazing cars. Like many, I was pretty quick not to give the Pontiac Fiero its due. And today I'm actually driving the rarest and highest performing Pontiac Fiero. The 1 year only V6 powered 5-speed with T-top formula. Look, the fact that the Fiero is the single best-selling American-made mid-engine car in history should say something about the naysayers being wrong. They made over 370,000 Fieros, but only 100, or a little less, were like this one, 5-speed, T-tops, and the V6 powered, but with that lightweight notchback body formula. The Pontiac Fiero actually finds its roots in a late 70s program for a mid-engine sports car at Pontiac. But by the 1980s, the GM brass had its way with it and did some cost cutting. So the multi-link suspension got thrown out, the more powerful engine specifically for the project was abandoned, and instead the Fiero debuted in 1984 with front suspension out of a Opel Kadett and rear suspension out of a Chevy Citation, and the venerable Iron Duke Pontiac 4-cylinder. Now, it was still lauded as a great looking car, and it had relatively good road manners. But unfortunately, reviewers found it underpowered at around 90 horsepower, and it just wasn't up to handling prowess of a typical mid-engine car. And oh yeah, there was that whole problem with some engine fires that were solved with a recall. But you know what they say about, how many times you get to make a first impression. But the fact of the matter is that every single year the Fiero got better. In '85, they brought out the V6 engine, and then there was the cool fastback styling of the GT, and by '87 there were more detailed changes, and then by '88 everything changed for the better. So for '88, the multi-link suspension was in. There was new tuning for the V6 and the Iron Duke, and pretty much everything else in the car was detail changed as well. And let me tell you, it makes a heck of a difference. So people frequently ask, well, how sporty is the formula? Well, let's get something straight. The Fiero formula isn't sporty, it's a sports car. Well, it's about 7.5 seconds. And before you start thinking that's kind of slow, that's faster than the Camaro RS of the same year. It's also faster than the non-turboed 300Z and RX-7, and faster than its direct competition, the non-supercharged MR2. It'll go about 130 miles an hour flat out. That is sports car territory. But beyond just the straight numbers, the Fiero actually feels faster because of really short gearing. And speaking of gearing, well, while this really hilariously tall gear shift lever might look, kind of funny, It actually works really well. The quadrants are actually very closely spaced, and it's really a short throw. I mean, it's not exactly a Miata in terms of shifting smoothness, but it works pretty darn well. But let's talk about handling, because the Formula option really put a premium on the ability for this car to handle. And let me tell you, this thing handles really well. Sure, there is some numbness from the manual steering, and it does respond well to really muscling around. But remember, this is an American car. We do things with strength and power. Sure, the MR2 is more of a scalpel, but at the end of the day, you get quicker lap times out of this ball-peen hammer. This thing corners flat, and I can take some crazy speed down these twisty roads. And this thing's just really fun. I mean, I don't know where you can get a better sports car for the price than what these are valued at. This thing really goes fast. One of the reasons I can drive this thing all day is it's super comfortable. I mean, really comfortable. Remember, I'm 6'4", and look how much headroom I have. This has to be the single most comfortable and spacious mid-engine car I have ever driven. And I've driven a lot of them, and I own a couple. The seats, well, they're pretty flat, but for the era, they're really comfortable. There's a reason that Fiero owners will go on 4 and 5 hour tours driving around the backcountry roads, because you can drive in this thing all day. The interesting thing to me is that while car people may say, it's a Fiero, when you drive this thing, people stop, they look, they point, they wave, they give thumbs up. Car people in the know like these. Non-car people love it because it's a great looking car. It stands out in a crowd. It's different. And let's face it, where are you going to find a mid-engine sports car, and especially this one, where there's less than 100 of them made, for, well under 10 grand? I mean, this is kind of a holy grail of Fieros and holy grail of affordable, really satisfying sports cars. And let's face it, even Ferris Bueller himself would have traded his computer for his sister's white Fiero. And remember, Jeannie had some pretty bad impressions of her twin brother Ferris, but she changed her mind. And you should change your mind about the Fiero, because this thing's just great.